Hello, and welcome to the Statutory. Happy Friday, if it's Friday with you. I hope you've had a fantastic week. Today I want to take you on a tour of the dye garden because it's now the beginning of June and things are beginning to grow, and it's a good time to still be able to see the kind of layout and what it's doing. But there is a feeling that something is going on there. I also wanted to say, I keep talking about it and calling it a dye garden, but in reality it's much more than that. The kind of work I do and the art I create and the things I talk about have always been very centred on the things that grow here. So back when I had a flower farm and I was a florist and I did weddings and I did events and I was at farmers markets and things, everything that I used was grown here. And that was the point for me, and it was kind of the interest for me. So what I love is this place, and I am making the garden into something that feeds my creativity. Now I'm not a kind of watercolor artist. I'm not a painter or anything like that. So I work with things. I'm primarily a textile artist or a printmaker on paper, and what I'm interested in is how I can use all the plants that I can grow here in my art. So there are things that are going to be used for natural dyeing, that are used for natural dyeing. But there's also going to be things that are used for botanical printmaking and for mono printmaking, and I'm quite interested in what I can do with cottage to incorporate that into my quilted pieces. So it's much more than these are plants that you can get colour from. And at the same time, I am converting it from what was a vegetable garden, because I decided that actually we now have a couple of really good market gardens near us and I can go and buy cabbages from them. So all that I'm growing food-wise now is sort of salads and greens and all that kind of things that you really want to be able to go and pick it and then put it on your plate. So the garden is a little bit cottagey. It's a bit of a hybrid. I'm really excited about the way it's coming together. The other thing is that my growing background, is as a flower farmer. I am somebody who grows crops. I just love that whole thing from, a seed to having things in the ground to be able to pick them. So there are bits of this garden that I'm going to show you that are cottagey and are wild and that are kind of like there for the decoration and the feel, but there are other beds that are quite regimented, because they're the beds that I'm going to be cropping things from, and I'll show you them as we go along. So anyway, out of the corner of my eye here, all I can see is my dogs going absolutely mad on the lawn. I'll turn the camera around and I'll show you that, and then I'll take you into the garden. So to get to the dye garden, we go past the box balls, which are actually recovering. These were from my mother-in-law's garden. She had them in pots at her front door, and when we got them they were completely orange, but they are beginning to recover. So we go through here, and hello Teasel. The garden itself is shielded. Now I created this border here, it's some spallier apple trees, and then it's a double-sided border, which is always just fluffy and pretty and kind of relaxed and unplanned, and it has lots of self-seeded things in it. But it's always just gorgeous. And the reason that I created it is to shield the sort of productive garden, because there's this thing that when you see flower farms, for example, on Instagram, they're often full of flowers fully in bloom. And that's not really the way that it works, because if you have a flower farm, as I used to for 12 years, you don't want any flowers in your garden. You want to have sold them all. That's the point of the business. So a flower garden, and what I'm creating here is a die crop garden, should actually be a garden that has very, very few flowers in it. But equally, this is also my domestic garden, and I want it to look pretty. So I have decided that I'm just going to screen it. So I'm screening it with this beautiful double border, and then within the productive thing I'll show you where I also screen. So here we have this sort of like path. This is at the front of this is largely salad crops, because then that's easy to get them from the house. And you can see I've also planted some sunflowers here, and they're sunflower valentines, so they will go into like a kind of bushy multi-stemmed plant. It's a pale yellow, lemon, cream, depending on what seed company you listen to. And then along here I have lots of mustards. I really love mustards. And then the first of the die crops. You'll see all round this garden I have planted French marigolds. The colour that you get from marigolds is just amazing. And they've got so much power in the die pot, and you can also press them for eco printing. So I have a lot of them in the garden, and I am going to cut every single head as it gets to this kind of size, and either dry it or press it, depending on what I want to use it for. So you see there's a lot of these around the garden, but they're never really going to have their heads on for very long. The next two beds are die crop beds. This is scabious black knight, and you can see I've just grown these from seed, and they will flower probably late August, September, October. And you can use the flowers for dyeing. They are not that colour fast, but they're quite good fun. And you can also use them for eco printing and for making pigment. So I will be collecting every single black knight flower that I can get. And then over the other side it is a similar crop of Achillea, and again I will just be growing that to harvest it. So these beds will never look very good. They're going to have nets across, and that's what the sticks are lying around for. I'm going to put them into the ground and then put string around to kind of keep all the crops up, because that's actually the danger that they all fall down. And then these narcissi here, which they make the garden look pretty right through March and April, but now I'm just waiting for the leaves to die back so that I can pick them and see about using them to make cordage, which I want to use in my quilts. We walk here and we can see that I'm doing a little bit of screening here. These beautiful apricot self-seeded foxgloves are going to look wonderful. And then on the other side is where I have the sweet peas, and you can see, look, I have the first sweet pea of the season here, this wonderful Nimbus sweet pea. And within a few weeks this whole tunnel will be full of sweet peas, and it will be the main feature of the garden. So you won't see the fact that everything else is a little bit plain. So we'll go past here, past more French marigolds ready to be harvested, and back to some more die crops. So the first one here is madder, you can see that, and I will need to wait 3 or 4 years until I can harvest this. So it's really a case of just getting it through the winters. And that is why it's in this bed. It's quite light soil, and I can also hoop it through the winter to try and keep it going, because my last lot, it just died off in a soggy winter. Here, looking a little bit distressed at having gone out, but they're perking up, are Dyer's chamomile. And again, I will be just harvesting all of the flowers that I can from these and drying them for use later on. It smells wonderful, this. But you can see this one is now, this one here has perked up. It's been so hot. They came out the tunnel, it's so hot, and they're quite fluffy foliage. So I've been watering them, and they are beginning to perk up. And then on this side we have the indigo plants, which I planted out this week. You can see they're looking very happy. Very, very happy, nice and perky. And I have some more in the tunnel. And then over here I have some weld plants. It's a great issue that a lot of the traditional dye plants do not like my climate. They either like it kind of very dry and rubbish soil, or they like it hot, and we are cold and wet with quite strong soil. So I don't use that many traditional dye plants. I'm growing them at the back here, and I'll see how they get on, and I will give them a lot of care. But really, it's kind of when I turn my back onto the edges, and there is fireweed, and there is docks, and there are thistles. I think, and there's hornbeam, and all kinds of things, and there's great beauty there. I love printing with the aqualegias. I'm going to press a whole load of them later on today, because this is all about place for me, and about the wonders of getting to know somewhere. So I hope that you enjoyed that tour around the garden. It's still very much at the beginning of the project, and I'll try and do a film every month so you can see how it hi Dixie, how it develops. And I've also started making some short films, just YouTube shorts, so under a minute, about what's happening here, kind of like day to day. So I planted out indigo in one, there's one about dyeing threads with hawthorn. I'd love to know what you think of them. If you're a studio clubber, then there are sort of blogs attached to each of these in the Studio Club library, in the Studio Club blogs, where you can comment and ask questions and that kind of thing. But they are also here just on the YouTube shorts on my channel. Anyway, have a fantastic weekend from me and Teaser. Yeah. And I hope that you have a lovely, relaxing weekend. Yeah. Oh, sweet pea. Sweet pea. You can say bye-bye. You can say bye-bye. Yeah. Bye-bye.